systemic failure, but it's also failure on the part of the individuals involved in carrying out these research trials and these experiments. So if you're looking for one single villain in the piece, no, there isn't one, but there are very, very many. And I have to say, at the beginning of the report, Brian Langstaff says, people will scarcely believe that this has happened in the UK. Think about that. We are talking about something which happened 40, 50 years ago. We're talking about secret trials carried out on patients, infecting them with hepatitis and HIV. And he says that in his report. You will scarcely believe that this has been allowed to happen in this country. And then he prefaces his report with a warning saying, this makes for extremely distressing reading. And I was talking to some people who were inside, some of the infected and affected, and they said, we feel vindicated, it's bittersweet. A lot of people have had trouble trying to read the reports. They felt triggered, was one of the words I used. And another person I spoke to earlier, a long-standing campaigner, he said it's going to take for a while for all of this to sink in because we've been waiting for this day for so many years.
Des, it's important to point out that this scandal is still ongoing. This isn't something historic we're talking about. The families here today and the victims are still living with the consequences. And in this report, Sir Brian Langstaff is, damning in his assessment of the fact that this is not a question of hindsight, he says. The risk of blood and blood products causing severe infection were well known before most patients were treated. In the case of hepatitis, since the end of World War II. I'll just let that sink in. This might have started in the 70s, but it's being felt now. And also, they knew about it back then. That's got to be so hard for the victims to live with today.
I think that is certainly right, but what I think the victims will find even more horrifying is the findings of Langstaff in that cover-up, that denial has been going on not only for 40 years, but is still going on at the moment. His concern is such at the lack of reaction of the present government over the past year. His concern is such that he's not going to close this inquiry today, as he normally would on delivery of the report. He's going to leave it open so that he can monitor what steps are now taken by the government to make sure that the recommendations which he has made are followed. And I think that really sums it up.
Yeah, you talk about the cover-up, and Sir Brian Langstaff saying the damage caused has been compounded by the reaction of successive governments, the NHS and the medical profession, to save face and expense. Successive governments refuse to admit responsibility, showing little interest in finding the truth, listening to those infected or taking action. Ashish, as you say, this report, the delivery of it this afternoon, does not draw a line under this.
No, absolutely.